You're tuned in and now listening to the program Straight Talk with the United Independent Movement. Presented by your host, Professor Aubrey and co-host, the President of the United Independent Movement, Jacques. With our anchor, Chris Herodes from Port Elizabeth, and from time to time, along with various guests, only here on Joy Radio, every Thursday evening from 6:30 till 8 p.m. Here on this program, where nothing is held back, and where you will get straightforward answers and sincere talk about the daily events in South Africa. Yes, that's what affects every citizen in this country.
You are tuned in here on Joy Radio, your companion and friend in Jesus. The following program is paid for and proudly brought to you by the United Independent Movement. This program contains political content. The views and opinions expressed in this program and broadcasts are those of the UIM and its representatives, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Joy Radio, its management team, sponsors, the owner or board of directors. This program is paid for by the United Independent Movement, which accepts full responsibility for its content in accordance with the Electoral Act and ICASA regulations. Joy Radio, your companion and friend in Jesus.
Good evening, South Africa and all the listeners across the globe. Yes, you know by now that you are tuned in to Straight Talk with the UIM. Ja, hier waar ons reguit gesels, net hoekies omdraai nie en julle belange op die hart het. With me tonight, as usual, my anchor and our national spokesperson of United Independent Movement, way from Port Elizabeth, Chris Herodes. Evening, Chris.
Evening, Prof. Lekker to be on this very hot day in Port Elizabeth. Always wonderful to be on with you.
Yeah, up here in Gauteng, it is just as hot and humid. And I actually spoke earlier to somebody on air, and I said, you know, we can see lately the days are getting shorter, but nights seems to getting a bit longer. The winter is coming. But yeah, then I also got again this week, all the way from KZN, Ivan with us. We thought maybe he wouldn't make it. They also had a bit of a problem there, power and all sorts of kind of things. But yes, let's say welcome to KwaZulu-Natal.
Good evening, Prof. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Prophet. And good evening to our listeners. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'm sure you all will not be disappointed tonight. Thank you.
I'm definitely sure nobody's going to be disappointed tonight. And then, yeah, our other guest tonight is our councillor in the city of Cape Town. Also regular here on Joy Radio. And he's none other than, shall we give a roll drum? Kurt Oliver, also known as Prophet Kurt. And Kurt, welcome this evening back onto Joy Radio.
Thank you, Prof. Chris and Evan, and then to all of our listeners, huge privilege to be on the show tonight.
Always a pleasure to have you with us, Kurt. Well, our president will tune in a bit later, will join us a bit later. And I saw he have just joined us. And so let's go straight over and say welcome after 2 weeks absence to our president of United Independent Movement, Jacques Taljaard. Jacques, evening and welcome back after this last 2 hectic weeks which you had.
Good evening, Prof, and good evening to the panel. Good evening to all the listeners out there. Yeah, it was a busy 2 weeks, but I'm happy to be back. I think people probably found our main topic title very interesting when we posted our banner this morning, the no good, bad, and the ugly. So there's a lot of things that happened in politics in the last week or 2 weeks, especially in the last week. And yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing some of those topics tonight. So this is going to be an interesting show.
Yeah, we all know the good, the bad, and the ugly. That movie of Clint Eastwood and so forth. But yeah, we have put a little another twist onto it for this evening. But yes, listeners, tonight we're going to start a bit different. There is no candidate this evening to introduce you to. But from now on, every week, we want to start also off with feedback. Feedback, because there's a lot of things what you as listeners are not aware of, what the UIM are actually busy with behind the scenes. Although we are only in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and Cape Town, but we've got councillors there, one in each one of those cities. But a lot of work are being done behind the scenes by a lot of people, by a lot of representatives of the UIM in different towns, in different parts of different provinces of South Africa. And for example, just to give you a taste before I put somebody on who's going to give us some a lot of some feedback down here in the Infuleni branch. For example, in the Sebedeng area, we get response from the local municipality. We get response from provincial. We get them to acknowledge our letters, our emails. They send people out to come and do inspections and site visits. This morning, once again, I contacted the representatives of provincial, who are situated in Vereniging, regarding potholes, how busy after the last lot of rain what we had, what are reopening and that. And my wife, Jill, who's also part of UIM, she went to Van der Bijl Park, and when she came back this afternoon, they came through, they sent me email, said, yeah, they come and do a site visit, they done it, and at the same time, they fixed it. So that is the way how we actually also, I'll say, how we have taken hands with these guys and what they give us for assistance. So we do get things done. But I want to bring Abel on now to give us a bit of feedback. He, as you heard last week, he is involved with a lot of communication on government level, municipal level, provincial level, all over. He's an activist for many, many years, as we said last week already. And he's got some feedback for us, what he have received on certain issues, what he have addressed, and certain bills and so forth. I will, over to you.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, it's my pleasure to report on the fact that we approached the Gauteng MEC for Transport and the KZN MEC for Transport, as well as a national minister. This is regarding three matters. The first one is that the 14 school kids that were killed on the Monday 3 weeks ago. Then there was the taxi accident in Isipingo where 11 people were killed. And then the next day, last week, Friday, there was a multiple truck crash on the N3. So we approached the three bodies simultaneously and we got an acknowledgement, and we're pursuing that matter vigorously. Just to let the listeners know that we are taking on matters of national interest as well. In terms of our good governance policy, we want to make sure that government is transparent and watch the space, because there is an initiative called the Open Government Partnership, which South Africa is a signatory to, but the government is not adhering to those norms. So I will be taking on the Deputy Minister of Public Service and Administration, who's tasked with that responsibility, and make sure that government decisions and contact details of all officials are made freely available, at least on the website in terms of the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act. And then again, dear listeners, I'm involved with a lot of civil society organizations. And this coming Tuesday, I'm invited by the Democracy Development Program, who's based here in Durban. The theme is Your Vote, Your Voice, Make It Count. This is intended as a shared space for reflection, alignment, and collective sense-making as we chart the priorities, programs, and interventions that will guide the DDP's work in the coming year across communities, institutions, and civic space. So building on our shared commitments from all the participants to deepening democratic participation and strengthening civic agency, the session will explore how DDP's 2026 program responds to evolving political, socio-economic, and electoral realities. Delegates will be invited to engage critically with our strategic focus areas, identify opportunities for collaboration, and contribute insights from practice that can sharpen our impact. Now, this is going to be very important, as we know. 2026 is going to be a watershed election, and the DDP normally has a lot of public forums and workshops for political parties and for the public to air the views. So I will also share whatever is coming through from the DDP. I know there's a seminar a public forum scheduled for sometime at the end of this month. And once I have details, I'll broadcast that. That will be to do with the evaluation of the State of the Nation address. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for that feedback there. So, yeah, listeners, every week we're going to give you feedback, what the UIM are busy with, what they have achieved so far, so that you can see that and realize that it's not just a couple of nice, ugly faces or so forth, but it's actually people who are here for the people, are doing work for the people. Panel, yes, this week there were quite a lot of headlines in the news. Plenty. And some of them we're going to touch on this evening. And I just want to refer to one or two quickly here, but once again, another committee. You know, it seems like the municipality councils have now also adopted the Cyril Ramaphosa attitude of a committee needs to be established to do investigation. Now, this is all about the Nbito municipality. And we all know by now, and we heard about it, and we read about it, the deputy mayor, now apparently of a firing of that firearm. It's not apparently, she fired it. The videos is there. You could have heard, you hear the shots, etc. And with a celebration of her son's initiation. And now, you know, they said, okay, right, we're calling a committee to investigate if she's really guilty or not. They actually have handed to a letter to inform her of allegations against her, and she got 7 days to respond. Well, my question is quite simple. Why wasn't she locked up? Why wasn't she charged, brought before a court of law, and follow the procedure like every one of us had to follow? And then if it was for her to get bail, that she should have gone out on bail while the investigation is going. So once again, it seems like a committee to be formed to hide something here. And then my second one, what I want to bring your attention to is, once again, the Prime Minister of Gauteng, Lufusi. Now, I hear his argument and that these people with on the high positions in the provincial government of Gauteng, what was suspended and that he brought now back, because he says according to the handbook of senior managers and regulations for public service, an employee who has been placed on precautionary suspension must be allowed back to work after 60 days, unless formal disciplinary action has already begun. First of all, 60 days. 60 days has elapsed, that's all fine. Why? 60 days is more than enough to start formal disciplinary action. Because why did you suspend that person in the first place? Because there was a reason to suspend him or her. And now what they've done, if taken all three of us, these people, and he redeployed them in other senior positions in other departments. And when we want to ask ourselves, why things doesn't come right? It's through things like this. I mean, this first one, Malonta, he's a suspended head of the Department of Health. He's now been temporarily appointed as senior manager in the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Yippee. So, yeah, you put your hand in a cookie jar or something, or get it in a trap, and you will just get another nice cozy job. Then there's Sisulu. He's the suspended head of community safety. He's now temporarily deployed, not where, to the Premier Minister's office to assist with service delivery priorities. All right. And the last one, Malopi, he's the suspended Chief Financial Officer of Community Safety. Hear me clearly? Chief Financial Officer of Community Safety. Now, he has been moved temporarily now to the Department of Environment to assist with financial administration. Now, I mean, from one department as a Chief Financial Officer in Finance, obviously he had probably, allegedly, his hand in my cookie jar and he couldn't get it out. So we said, fine, we broke it for you, your hand is out, so we put you in another department, so maybe you can do it this way in a manner to get your hand out, not to be caught with your hand in it. It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's why we need to make change. And that brings me back to that topic what we just heard about. Your vote, your voice, make it count. But as we say at the UIM, yeah, we are gutful, that's for sure. But we are still hopeful, because we can still bring a change around in the end of the day. So about 3 points, I don't know if anyone on the panel maybe just got a point or two that we want to address here. And yeah, and then we will carry on. Chris, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, Prof. Okay, we'll start with the mayor. Yeah, well, the alleged videos of her clapping off a firearm repeatedly, they are alleged videos. I don't know how they can form commissions or not charge the woman, anything like that, because it was done. I think it was videoed by 3 different people. It was put onto social media. If I'm not mistaken, I did a video about this as well. And now they're going to form a commission or whatever. But the aim of this is to sweep it under the carpet. Just as well as it is, if you've noticed anything about the ANC over the last, especially in Cyril Ramaphosa's, in his tenure, whenever there's any allegation or whenever there is fingers being pointed at anything they do, they form a commission. The aim of the commission is to take up enough time so people will forget about it. That is what the aim of the commission is. We had the Zondo Commission, spent a hell of a lot of money. Nothing came about it. So you look at, as I've been watching, the Nkonyane case as well. I mean, people that are blatantly guilty are just being set free. So it's a normal thing. It's a normal thing within the ANC that if you've been found to have your hand in this cookie jar, you will be deployed elsewhere. My problem is there's a cookie jar on that side as well. So it doesn't matter. Just take this one with and fill it up on that side. Nothing bad is going to happen. There's no accountability when it comes to the ruling party. Hence, they're the ruling party and not the governing party.
Yeah, that is so true, Chris. So that's why I cannot understand it. I probably will never understand it. So that's why it's in the hand of the voters to make these changes come this election in 2026, so that these things can prevent it. The President Ramaphosa can speak all the nice languages to say, listen, this time we're going to put councillors in place with integrity, with qualifications and the know-hows and that, I think is a little bit too late at this stage. Then as we look, and something what doesn't actually affect any other province but Gauteng. Once again, Gauteng. Monday morning, well, let me go back. Sunday evening, after 8 the evening, parents received messages from schools to say, listen, your children who are making use of government-provided transport, sorry, there is no transport tomorrow. Now, the Gauteng Small Bus Operators Council had their final meeting after they had a meeting a week before already with all the role players in Gauteng, in provincial government. And they decided enough is enough. They haven't paid us. Invoices is behind 3-4 months. We strike. We're stopping our services. So children, and some of these children, and I'm talking of all children of all races here, who are need this transport to get to school, are stranded, and they're still stranded. And we've been to a parents' meeting yesterday evening, Tuesday evening, as a matter of fact. And then of course, the first thing what the principals will tell you, said, listen, we need money to maintain the school, because the department have cut the fees, the finances to do maintenance at the schools. Yes, Gauteng also is broke in that regard, Department of Education. There is no money for maintenance. So no toilets, no nothing can be fixed. If there's no water, the pipes are busted or whatever, can't be fixed. You need to do it yourself. But then they also said, you know what, and then they bring the ballot out very quickly. And this is now the principles. If your child is not at school for 3 days or longer, your child will lose his or her space in the school, because we know in this province there are thousands of children still not placed, and because the ballot access so. Yeah, it says yeah, in specifically in section 4A, subsection 3, if a learner is absent for 3 consecutive school days without valid reason, the class teacher concerned must report the absence to the principal. The principal must, within 24 hours after being informed of the absence, investigate the matter by making reasonable effort to contact the parent of a learner by whatever means are suitable for the circumstances of the school, and the family concerned to report the matter to the governing body of the school for further intervention. But that's not what they tell the parents. They tell the parents, your kid is 3 days out of school, sorry, we are throwing your child out. Now, is this the problem? Why does these kids make use of government transport to get to school? Because there's no other way and no other means to get there. But now they want to tell the parents, your child is not there for 3 days, sorry, your child hasn't got space in the school anymore. You see, one moment, these schools, and I'm talking this is Afrikaans school, were fighting against the Ballot Act, hand, feet, nails, teeth, everything, and now suddenly they want to use it against the parents, and then they still misinterpreted it. But that is once again what we are sitting with. The act is there, we can't change it at this stage until you as the electorate who are listening to this program put somebody in place, a party in place who are prepared to do the right thing for you, not just doing some window dressing. So I don't know if anyone of a panel would like to comment on that one. Doesn't seem like it.
I'll just make a quick comment on that, and that is that it's very clear, and it's been clear and evident for a very long time that the ANC and the ANC-led government wants to assume absolute power and control over the country, its resources, its economy, while at the same time being so corrupt and incompetent that, you know, they are affording them, or they are giving themselves these rights and authorities and powers and stuff, but they cannot handle it. They are too incompetent. I mean, the reason why this is now being proposed is because there you heard it, the Department of Education hasn't been paying their bills. So this is why we are sitting with this crisis. And like you, as you rightly said, now they are using legislation to try and make excuses for their inadequateness and their failures and their incompetence. So this reminds me. This reminds me very much of a particular type of governance system or governance model that exists in the world. It's called communism.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't get communism right, then you're stupid. Then you are useless. But this is just. These are all power plays, Prof. This is why when we spoke earlier about that mayor or that mayoral candidate that, you know, fired the gun in public. These people have an absolute disregard for the law because they know that there are certain rules that don't apply to them. Everybody is supposed to be equal before the law, but you know, in South Africa, it's a well-known fact that some people are more equal than others.
Yeah,
so this has been an ongoing theme on Joy Radio for the last 6 months. By the way, you reminded me this week that we've officially been on Joy Radio now for 6 months, which is absolutely great. But unfortunately, you know, the ANC's incompetence and the government's incompetence has been an ongoing theme, week in and week out. So, and I mean, we've said on many occasions that none of this stuff surprises us. We're still disappointed. We still get disappointed every now and again. But none of these things come as any kind of surprise to us. So yeah, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, but Jacques, you know what? Once again, it boils down to, we all know on the Malema case, and I mean, last week we actually discussed it while you had to attend that urgent court case down there in the Free State, where he blames it, and she also probably going to blame it, that weapon which she had, on Jan van Riebeeck. Because as Malema, he said, if Jan van Riebeeck didn't bring the muskets in, this would have never happened. You know, and that's the mentality. That's the people who are running our municipalities. And I just wish that people want to wake up and to realize there are people who do have integrity and who do have the knowledge and the qualifications. And if I'm talking about qualification, I'm not talking about degrees and stuff. I'm talking about qualifications of daily life, how to deal with this kind of things and to handle it at the end of the day. But I want to, yes, Jacques.
Yeah, Prof. Now I think, you know what, at some point, we're going to have to start talking about the ANC, and we're going to have to start addressing the people that vote for them. You know, there's a thing in law called guilty by association. And if you support an entity that is guilty of certain crimes and has certain dark clouds hanging over it, and you support that organization or that entity, that leaves a lot of question marks, Prof. That to me is, I start then questioning people, not the ANC anymore, because the ANC, they are what they are. I start questioning people. I'm starting to ask questions about the people who support them. And that applies to every organization out there who doesn't have this country and the future of this country and its prosperity, you know, as a main priority, or regards it as a main priority. If you are supporting entities and organizations that, you know, that don't support economic growth, that don't support equality, that don't promote merit-based employment, that are not concerned with the people of South Africa, that are not concerned with, you know, plagues and sicknesses and stuff getting out of control while prohibiting people to fix those problems. I mean, there's a whole list. There's a whole list. When you support entities or organizations like this, Prof, then I mean, I'm seriously starting to ask questions about your integrity as an individual who supports such an entity or an organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, listeners, our councillor from Cape Town, we've asked him to join this evening because there's nobody better than him to give us insight on what happened this week. And I think everyone is aware of Councillor Lazola Gunuke, I hope I pronounced it correctly, who was shot dead in his council office. And I mean, stories, what's going out there, it's vague. We don't know exactly what happened. But questions, what already came up and what was asked is, how? How did those assassins, because I call them assassins, there's nothing else you can call them, how did they get entry into the council buildings, into where this councillor is, with a weapon, a firearm, to be able to do this horrendous check? Where was the security? What checks is in place? You know, there's so many questions, so little answers. And that's why I've asked Kurt to be with us tonight, but we asked him to come in. Because, I mean, he walks those corridors on a daily basis. He sits there in council, he sits in those meetings and that. Now, I mean, do you feel safe in the end of the day now? Just put yourself in that situation as a listener. You are a councillor there. And this has happened to one of your fellow councillors. Doesn't matter from which political party, doesn't matter. It's a human being. A person who lost his life. What probably could have been prevented. I don't know. But I think Chris will be able to, Kurt will be able to fill in the blanks for us. Kurt, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, Prof, what actually happened is that Councillor Kuntle was at a community meeting. And what we were told was that he was asked to stand in for the ward councillor when he actually attended that meeting. So the suspects apparently, they actually were sitting in that meeting when it happened. So obviously, just to bring some clarity with regards to how they gained access. And obviously after the shooting, they then fled in a vehicle. So there was lots of planning. You can just by what we were told, you could figure out exactly how they plan to do it. And it's always difficult, Prof, and to our listeners, to when you actually find out that a councillor, that it doesn't matter if they from a different party, just as you said, but you actually sitting in that seats and you addressing certain things, and where there's even moments where and it happens to a lot of people where the humanity factor kicks in. And a lot of times, Prof, that emotion needs to be removed when it comes to certain decisions or certain matters, or even when it comes to speaking about certain things. And here we find that one of our city has been shot and killed, and lots of talk the next day. I remember even when I was in the safety and security portfolio, there was lots of talk with regards to what happened. There was lots of questions. There was lots of talk amongst the councillors. Do we need to up our security now? Do we need to really think twice about where we go? And obviously our safety is important, but there's a lot of fear when it comes to what is happening. I mean, at the end of the day, Prof, you know me, everyone that's on the panel knows me. I'm not somebody that will give in to fear. And it's something that will not move me when it comes to doing what is right, and especially when it comes to serving, the people within Cape Town and within South Africa. But my question, Prof, is why is it becoming a common thing? Even what we've noticed when we spoke in the safety and security portfolio is that something that has also become common is the attacks on police, as the attacks on members of staff members of the municipalities. It's becoming a common thing, and it is obvious why it's becoming a common thing is because the police, the SAPS, does not have an answer with regards to what is happening. I mean, even not too long ago, the acting police minister said that the SAPS is not at the level where they are actually ready to defeat gang. How can you make a statement like that? And it's not the first time he makes a statement like that. I think it's the second or the third time he makes a statement like that. I mean, when he was in Mitchell's Plain, he bravely said to the media that they do not have a plan. And they are busy with a plan. There should be a plan within the next 3 months. So 3 months that have passed now he says they're not ready to defeat the gangs. And you're saying this on to the media, you're saying it in public. So obviously, and I'm going to say it boldly tonight, I don't think he is the man for the job. And the president needs to be honest. And if he's not going to replace this acting police minister, things is going to get worse. Even in full council last week, Prof, where the UIM, where we used our few minutes in council to speak on a certain topic, and it was with regards to is sending the army the right thing that needs to happen in the Western Cape. And as the UIM, our response was, it is not the right thing to do. The right thing would be is to devolve or evolve powers, policing powers to law enforcement within the city of Cape Town, because law enforcement is doing far much more than the SAPS. And we even had the facts, we had the data, we had the numbers to prove it. When it comes to finding of illegal firearms, when it comes to drug arrests, when it comes to certain crimes that they are addressing, law enforcement is the top when it comes to their successes. So why, Prof, still now the National is still blind to it? And I even said in council, I think that National needs an appointment at the optometrist to go in, they need thicker lenses to their glasses, because they're obviously not seeing the reality of what is happening. They are not seeing how our people is suffering. Now currently, how our councillors is suffering, because this is something that could have been prevented. If the police was at the level where they need to be, this is something that could have been prevented. The SAPS is not taking a proactive approach to fighting crime, but now we find law enforcement, we find Metro Police, we even find traffic that is taking that approach, and that is what we need to see happen within the city of Cape Town. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Kurt. I just want to come back. You mentioned that this councillor stood in for another ward councillor at this community meeting. I know the press reported that he was shot in his office. So, matter of fact, so it was actually not his office where he was shot in. It was at a community meeting. Now, this meeting, was it in the council buildings, or was it at within the community area?
Prophet was at the old Crossroads Community Hall. That is where the meeting was held. It was in what's it now, Kwai Street out in Nyanga. That is where the meeting was held.
Okay, so it wasn't in the council buildings. It wasn't in his office. So did the council now that they address the matter to up security for when you guys need to go and speak to or attend meetings with communities in the community areas?
Yeah, Prof, obviously what is happening now, it obviously needs to be at the request of the councillors themselves. And as we know, there's a lot of the new NSO officers that graduated last year that has now been deployed in the wards themselves. So I think it's a day-to-day thing that will probably be requested from the councillors themselves, but discussion amongst the councillors within council is that security definitely needs to be upped and looked at. Me myself, Prof, I'm somebody that plans really properly before I go anywhere. And obviously, we all know that Prof, you will also know that the police training that you had back there teaches you a lot of stuff. So it's a lot of responsibility amongst our councillors ourselves with regards to safety, which we all feel needs to be looked at.
Yeah, okay, but okay, my last question on this regard, Kurt, is but up to date, City of Cape Town didn't put out any statement to rectify this misunderstanding what was reported in media countrywide and probably worldwide. Because as we came on air tonight, still the impression was that this councillor was shot in his office in the council building, because that is what was reported. And this is a bit of concern. So now once again, I immediately think, what are the DA-led council of Cape Town are trying to hide? Why don't they want to bring out the truth where it really happened and why it happened? And I'm just going to leave it by that. I see Chris's hand is up. Chris?
Yes, Councillor Kurt, if you can explain the difference to the listeners between SAPS and law enforcement, it would make things a lot easier for them.
Yeah, there's obviously, when it comes to law enforcement, especially LEAP, within the municipality, it's a lot of it is to do with national police, the SAPS, that has certain policing powers. Obviously, they can restrict your constitutional rights, and they have powers to arrest, to search you on the street, all of that. So there is a slight difference between the two. Obviously, law enforcement at the beginning, they were designed specifically for bylaw, but because they have been very, very successful when it came to crime prevention, when it came to about the bylaws, when it came to their patrols and things like that, that afterwards they started to realize that filling the voids, the SAPS is failing. Like we all know, if you go to any police station, you will find of their vehicles mechanically broken at the police station, or there will be too little staff, or people is off sick and things like that. So they realize that a lot of the void can be filled by law enforcement. So we do have our Metro Police that has the same powers of the SAPS, but traffic and the law enforcement is a bit different. So obviously the reason why we are actually pushing that law enforcement would have the same policing powers as the SAPS is because most of the time that is the law enforcement that is apprehending people, the suspects, that is confiscating illegal firearms, that is doing all these sorts of things where SAPS is failing. And again, I want to say it, Prof. Chris, and to our listeners, that it is only about finding the best solution for our citizens and for our residents in the municipality or within the city of Cape Town. And currently we've looked at a lot of different solutions. And I want to say this as well, Prof, that after I said in council, I think it was the next day that President Ramaphosa put out another public actually saying that he's not considering sending the army anymore. But the day before, he was saying he's considering sending it. So you know, there is national that is listening very, very closely to what is being said within council. We're going to push that. As I said, we need to do what is best for you know, our people with the Western Cape and obviously in the rest of South Africa. And you know, Prof, the other thing is also that we're not the only metro that is pushing it. It's not just us within the Western Cape. I actually found out that there's also somebody that is pushing the same thing within Gauteng as well, within council there as well. So it is something that eventually will be looked at nationally. And like I said, where SAPS is failing, that is where law enforcement comes in. I hope that brings understanding to your question, Chris.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you. Right, listeners, let's go. And we start, and we're going to look now at the good, or shall I say the no good, the bad, and the ugly. And if I had that sound that made in a movie, I would have played it now. Let's look what happens. You know, first of all, ANC, always ANC, they reject aid that exposes its failure. And this is where the tit for tat came in. Because in the Eastern Cape, the Israel delegation went, and they were helping the community with access to water, while our government was holding exercises with the Iranian allies. The same Iranian allies but are now are sitting deciding war or no war. Right. What the best is that they came up with solutions for hospitals, schools, the water crisis, etc., etc. Our government prevents this help and water, what is absolutely needed, by making a political point out of it. And they actually forfeit any claim to moral authority by rejecting humanitarian aid. And that is how far the rot has already gone, according to me. Because they used this on the 30th of January to declare the charge d'affaires of Israel, Ariel Seidman, a persona non grata. You got 72 hours to pack your suitcase and to go. Cheerio. Now, I don't know if I thought that Israel is going to sit on their hands and said, oh, please don't. No. I said immediately to our senior person there, pack your suitcase the next day. You got 72 hours to go. Now, I mean, what happened to that aid now? And in the meantime, they were invited by the king there in East London. I can't remember his name now. I saw a news clip of his, what he said, and he made it clear. He said, I am the king here, I'm the monarch. I don't care about this ANC minister. I don't care of whoever is in control from the ANC in this province. Here, I'm a monarch. What I say goes, and I can invite who I want to invite. But that has cost a huge international situation again. Israel says that it's a false attack once again by South Africa and Israel. And they will consider additional steps against us. Now, our Department of Dirko, are they really so short-sighted? When it comes when aid, in the time when nobody wants to give us aid anymore, except of course maybe Russia, Iran and China. But they want to actually throw it back in the faces like that. And I know our president, I've been waiting that we start with a no good, the ugly, and so forth. Jacques?
Yeah, Prof, we all know that, this started when, well, I think it actually started when obviously we took Israel to the World Criminal Court. I think the question there is, I think at that stage, there were some comments made that seemed positive at the time, because I think people were under the impression that the government was doing it for sound moral reasons, which we quickly found out was not the case. There's hidden agendas behind all of those decisions and all those moves that were made, if I can call it that. We know that this government openly supports countries that have dark clouds of allegations of terrorism and communism and all of these things. Some of them are just openly communist. They are in support and they support these countries. They are aligned with these countries and these individuals. We all know what that the ANC, I'll say it's the ANC, but they'll probably argue that it's the government, because remember, we've got a GNU now, so-called GNU. I still see it as an ANC-led government. We know that they are doing everything in their power to try and destroy whatever relationship is left with America. And we know that America and Israel are closely aligned with one another. We all know that this government doesn't prioritize the people of South Africa. There's this old saying or a quote that says, "The shepherd who feeds himself first starves the flock." And we are in a situation now where any help from any country is most welcome, especially with the crises that we face in South Africa, particularly water. And that's a slap in the face. Apparently that diplomat was, asked to remove the country, and one of the reasons, I don't know if it's the main reason, but one of the reasons is that he posted certain things on social media.
Well, he said to Ramaphosa, well done.
Yeah, and so I would like to see those. I think it would be very nice to see those posts, because I would like to see what President Ramaphosa, what is his definition of the word? What's the word that I want to use?
Derogatory.
Not defamatory, but
Derogatory.
Derogatory or offensive. Offensive. I would like to know what is his definition of offensive content, or offensive posts, or offensive commentary. I'm very interested to see what was actually posted, and for that reason, and for that one being one of the main reasons, he was asked to leave the country. So they're coming up with all kinds of excuses for just to destroy that relationship until there's nothing left. And they're laughing while they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it at the cost of the people of South Africa. But we all know now, and we've known for a very long time, and we're going to keep on repeating this, that it's clear. And I'm not saying this is not speculation, Prof. We are not speculating. We are going on evidence. We are basing this on evidence. We are basing this on what we see every single day. I'm basing this on what I see every time I watch what's happening in the Matlanga Commission inquiry, those inquiries or those sessions. When I watch it on YouTube, I'm basing it on that. Kurt earlier made a comment and he asked, why is these things happening? Why is it possible for people to get shot in open view of the public I mean, just a while ago there was a lawyer and there were people shot right in front of the courthouse.
In
I think
Alberton,
last
yeah.
year there was a lady that was killed inside the courthouse. I mean, we've got lawyers that are being assassinated in their offices. There are people that are being assassinated in full view of the public, Prof. And I'll tell you why. You know, in law, when you get a sentence, when you commit a crime and the court sentences you, the key purposes of a prison sentence, amongst other things, is, well, obviously punishment, rehabilitation, incapacitation, but I think one of the most important purposes a court sentence or a prison sentence serves is deterrence. It's supposed to deter people from committing further crimes. Now, in the same breath, the police in South Africa, I mean, they are responsible for the safety and security of the people and the citizens of this country. And one of the ways in which they are supposed to achieve that is to intimidate criminals. The police need to serve some form of an intimidation purpose. But obviously, that intimidation should be directed should be directed in the right direction. But criminals in this country don't fear the police. They are not intimidated by the police. They're not scared of the police. And if you don't believe me, go and do yourself a favor and go and just look at some of these video clips that are being shown on YouTube. You see what's actually happening at the very top level of policing in South Africa. Well, there's some stuff that's coming out there, and there are some associations alluded to there. You know, we're talking about high-ranking, talking about police commissioners that are being linked to cartel members in South Africa and criminals. And the evidence, this is all being exposed in these Madlanga Commission sessions. And FYI, who gets to appoint the National Commissioner of Police in South Africa, Prof? The President.
Yeah, no one else.
So all of these things, Prof, they go hand in hand. And all of this is just pointing to the fact, and like we always say every week, that the ANC-led government doesn't prioritize the people of South Africa. They don't care about the people of South Africa, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that whatever agenda they have is being promoted at the cost of the people in South Africa and people's livelihoods and people's basic rights. So this is just a summary. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I've read some of the stuff. I've looked at some of the articles on this, and there's a lot of things that they are alluding to, and it's diplomacy this and international law this, and certain rules have been breached of diplomacy and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we all know that the ANC and Israel are not sitting next to they're not sitting around the same campfire.
Definitely
and neither
not.
are they interested in sitting around the same campfire with America. So
Yeah.
this thing goes much deeper than meets the eye. And there's a lot of stuff. Well, I think these things will eventually get exposed. But there's a lot happening behind the scenes, Paul, that we are not unaware of. This is surface level stuff that we are being allowed to see or to view from the outside. There's a lot of stuff that's happening that goes way deeper than what we see on the surface.
I agree with that. Jacques, you mentioned the Mandela Commission, and I would like to get your point of view on a point. Lately, after the 3-month report came out, and we know that President Ramaphosa put that list out last week or to say these people need to be investigated, these people need to be criminally charged, etc., etc. And there is still a lot of noise being made because Ntunu is not part of it. His name was not mentioned, and I've personally watched a couple of podcasts, news podcasts, where spokespersons of the President's office were grilled, why not, this not, and so forth. And the general feeling in the public now is that the Mandela Commission is also corrupt now. Because why didn't they, the things that were already brought out, what we've heard, even in Tunu's own testimony, why wasn't his name put forward? Why is, and they say that Ramaphosa actually put this commission so together still to safeguard his own cadres. What is your opinion on that one?
Well, Prof, it's still undergoing. It's still undergoing. I mean, this is still something that's it's still it hasn't been finalized yet. So I think I would rather wait and see what happens when all of these sessions are concluded and when this inquiry is finally finished, and then see how they react and then respond.
So,
But what I can tell you is, if we have to go and look at history or use history as a reference, what happened with the Zondo Commission?
yeah,
We just spoke earlier about those 60, those people, those councils or those members of the municipality that were suspended for 60 days, and thereafter they were reinstated, and some of them were just moved around.
yeah.
They are experts. The agency, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. I want to throw up when I say that word. They are experts at moving deck chairs around on the Titanic, Prof. They are experts at doing that. They are experts at pulling the wool over our eyes, suspending people and investigating things, and then coming to certain conclusions or like, I mean, a couple of weeks ago we did another Joy radio session where there was a report published on things that they investigated, which they then found out, and this to them was like a massive accomplishment, and they all wanted medals for it. But I mean, and we said clearly when we did that broadcast, we said, we're not interested in your findings. We are interested in what you're going to do about it. Your findings, we actually know what, we can actually predict these findings. Because, I mean, we're not stupid and we're not blind. We're not interested in your findings. We are interested to know what are you going to do about it. I don't want to read the Zondo Commission's report. I don't want to read the Madlanga Commission's report. I want to read the article the next day that says X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, whoever is being charged criminally, and the law is going to take its course. That's what I want to know. That's what I want to read. I'm not interested in reading these documents, Prof. I want to know who's being charged, what are they being charged with, when's their first court appearance. That's what I want.
Yeah, so actually what you're also telling me is that people are actually putting the cart before the horses, because we know the tuner needs to go back to the Mandla Commission. It's been made very clear that they're going to recall him, and I think that's when actually the head will be removed from the body. But another big story what broke yesterday was that John Steenhuisen actually said he's not up for re-election as leader of a Democratic Alliance. He says he have done his job. He's taken the DA from down there, made them the second biggest political party in this country. So the next leader will need to carry on with that. He is going to, for the remainder of his tenure, he is going to stay in the government of national unity as Minister of Agriculture, and put all his energy into, in his words, and I quote, defeating the most devastating foot and mouth disease outbreak of our country has ever seen, and in pursuing mass vaccinations and ensuring that this is the last mass outbreak of foot and mouth disease our country has seen, unquote. So that is his mission now. But, okay, I hear what he says, but red lights are there. Because Argentina have now revoked. Remember that, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, that they had ready to ship from there about 5 million doses of vaccinations. And these vaccinations was intended to use against the SAT1, the SAT2, and the SAT3 strains of the foot and mouth disease virus. And they now have absolutely revoked the design biologic authorization of a BCS vaccine. And they have withdrawn the authorization, allowing the company in South Africa to bring it in, to distribute it, or anything in that regard. And this has already happened. The letter what they sent of revoke to revoke it in its entirety was on January 15, but when the authorization was granted. And the letter was sent on February the 2nd. And just then on the 4th of February, John Steenhuisen decided, now I'll resign as leader of the Democratic, well, not resign, I'm not going to go up for re-election in April because I want to put my attention on here. After already legal action has started against him and his department and the people working in that department regarding the foot and mouth disease. And as we know that he also said, and I once again quote him, that internet's off. Hello?
Ja,
Internet's af.
ek kan niks doen as die internet af is nie, hoor. Krag is af, hoor.
Yeah, so he warned that legal action on the issue would jeopardize the government efforts to stem the outbreak and some point restore BSS free status. The imminent court action could derail the purchase and rollout of vaccines while the Sake Liga FSA case moved through the court process and the department waits to clear directive from a court on this issue. So this is actually a huge problem. And it seems like we got a little bit, as we have been from without power. I just want to change internet connections quickly. Kan jy net my paswoord insit asseblief? Dis dongel toe gaan, ek kan altyd aan dit. Die ene ook.
Ek kan in kabel gaan.
Ek kry nie op nie.
Dis die kabel.
Nee, ek het hom so opgehaal. Hier is connect, maar ek kom niks op hier sin.
Net hier. Ek kan net op sy kabel.
Yeah, we apologize for that. We had a bit of an issue here. Internet just went down completely. And yeah, as we last said before we went down, that we had this situation where the DA leader decided that he is stepping down as leader. He will not stand again as a leader for the DA in the April elections, and that he's going to give all his attention now to a foot and mouth disease. And as I said as well, that Argentina had now actually came out now as well, and they said that, listen, we have revoked the design of biologics of authorization for the BSC vaccine. And yeah, that is a problem, because they would have supplied South Africa with further 5 million doses by March this year. And now that has been revoked, completely revoked. So, furthermore, Minister John Steenhuisen was also taken to court, he and his department, by SAI Sake Liga and FSA for their lack of doing something against the foot and mouth disease. But the minister came and he said, listen, I don't care what you say. I don't care if you take me to court, because you are actually short-sighted by doing it, because you are jeopardizing the government's effort to stem the outbreak. And for us to restore the BSC-free status. And he also stipulated, he said that the imminent court action could derail the purchase and rollout of vaccines while this case moved through the court process, and the department waits to get a clear directive from the court on the issue. So actually what he says, he said that if you take us to court, we're going to wait for the court to come back to us to tell us exactly what course we should take now. So we're going to sit back apparently then as well until such time that there is a decision made by the court. And I just got the panel back now on as well. Guys, apologies, but as I said in the beginning of the program, Eskom has been off here since early this afternoon, and our tower, it seems that tower went off, the internet tower, and I had to quickly switch over to plan B, to my contingency plan here. So it was a bit, but we were a little bit off air, but we're back on. So, Jacques, John Steenhuisen.
Prof, so you basically telling me that for the last 10 minutes, myself and Chris here have been coming up with revolutionary, extraordinary, out-of-the-box policies and comments, and nobody listens to us.
Yes, just as you said it now to the listeners as well, because we're back live on air.
Okay, so I think that we weren't on air because there were a couple of harsh words spoken and a couple of swear words as well, so...
Okay, that's a good word. But Jacques, I just redone the introduction on John Steenhuisen, who actually said he will not stand again as leader. He's done his job. He's handing over the baton, and that then he's going to give all his attention to the foot and mouth disease, and then on Argentina, who revoked their design biologics authorization to South Africa. Sai, who took Steenhuisen in his department to court, and he actually said, listen, if you do this, you guys are actually shooting yourself in the foot, because when we have to wait for the court to come out and tell us what is the clear directive in this regard, because actually now you are stopping us. So yeah, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Because I mean, the farmers are fed up. They are really, really fed up. I mean, they lost millions already. There's farmers who took their own lives with this thing. We had this week the situation of 150 cows what had to be put down. Where the farmer didn't have their own, he couldn't do himself. He phoned his neighbor to come and shoot them. The neighbor said, you know, those cows couldn't get up, they were crawling. They had to be put down. The farmers are being bankrupt completely. So yeah.
Prof, just a correction on the discussion or the topic of the Argentinian company that ended its contract with local animal vaccine supplier Design Biologics. I think there might be a misconception out there that they have decided not to send vaccines to South Africa anymore. That's not the case. My understanding is that they were using a middleman. There was a company in South Africa that had sole distribution and importing rights of this particular vaccine, and they ended that. They ended their sole distribution rights, basically. That's what they ended, and they are instead, it seems, opting to do business with the National Department of Agriculture directly. Because the letter that they actually sent, I've got the letter or a copy of it or an extract of it here right in front of me, and they basically said that they are preferring to work directly without intermediaries, and that that doesn't dismiss the possibility of potential future collaborations in the private market, but it seems as if they are going to deal directly now with the Department of Department of Agriculture. So just the correction in that part.
Okay,
as far as John's resignation, him bowing out of the race to become the DA's leader for another term. Obviously, this was not voluntary, Prof. This was not a voluntary decision. That is, it seems to be the consensus out there, or the popular opinion, or majority opinion of podcasters and news writers out there, that this was a decision that was forced upon him. I don't know how much the foot and mouth disease issues got, a factor that played a role in this. I would think significantly, but they have opted not to mention the foot and mouth disease crisis, and the fact that John was being linked to that whole saga. Instead, they have stated that all the common opinion or the popular opinion is that the issue, that he had with Dion George, it seems to be the primary motivating factor for the DSA to ask you basically about. But now obviously, we're not going to have all the details, and I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that we are unaware of that's happening behind closed doors at the DA headquarters that they are not going to tell us. But I can tell you now, this was not voluntary. This was a decision that was forced upon him. And unfortunately, and I told Chris while we were off air, I said I found it very interesting when I listened to a discussion about John Steenhuisen and the DA last night, where somebody mentioned the fact that, or they mentioned that the DA has become the new ANC light. It's not, like I said, from my mouth. This is not something that I'm saying. This is something that I heard that was said during a podcast. And then I told Chris, it reminded me of a quote that says, "Run with wolves long enough and you'll howl like one, or become their supper." And then I reminded Chris, and Chris actually remembered this, back when Neil was still with us, and shortly after the election results came out, and we heard that the DA was going to form part of the GNU and blah, blah, blah. Neil made a prediction and he said that the ANC was going to swallow the DA whole. And I think he pointed or he referenced back to when the ANC did a similar thing with the National Party under Martinus van Schalk. And it seems as if Neil's prediction is, according to the public, or according to the opinions out there, has come to fruition. So, and then you also, they mentioned that apparently the DA grew under John Steenhuisen in the last 4 or 5 years. No, they did it. Less votes than they got in the previous election. Their percentage, though, increased, and that's only because less people voted. And we then obviously said that, you know what, if you want to see improvement, or if you want to determine whether or not your organization or your business has grown, look at the numbers. Don't look at the percentages or the ratios, look at the numbers. That you get more votes, and you got in, that more people vote for you, than 5 years prior. And if the answer is no, then you didn't grow. Then your numbers declined, and less people voted for you. So I just wanted to make that correction.
Okay, so yeah, you see, that's why you can't believe everything as well what you read in the media and just go on that. You need to dig a little bit further on that. But if you're from the opinion that John Steenhuisen did not give it up voluntarily, do you think he's going to stay in government after the new leader has been elected? Because look, till April he's still the leader. But once the new leader elected, then the new leader can actually tell him, I want you to get out, or not.
Prof, the opinion that was shared last night was that it would be foolish, or it would be, we would find it, or the person that mentioned it said he would find it very strange if the DA or elected to keep John in that position if he's no longer the leader of the party, because obviously the ANC, with their agreement or what that they have in place with the DA, would want to, have a good relationship with the party's leader. And if John is not going to be the party's leader, if he's just going to be a minister, that kind of defeats the purpose. He was the leader of the DA, and that's why I think one of the reasons why he got that position as Minister of Agriculture. Now, surely, if you are the ANC and you want to keep the DA happy and you want to, your commitments or whatever the agreements that were struck, you are going to try and keep the leader of the party as close to your side and as happy as possible. And I think one of the reasons that the DA is getting a lot of criticism in the press and in social and mainstream media is because of the way John is handling this foot and mouth crisis. So it's hurting the DA. I think at the moment, if it hurts the DA, it's hurting the GNU. If it hurts the GNU, it hurts the ANC. So, in my opinion, I can't see him staying in that position for too long. My opinion.
Do you think it's a good thing? Bad thing?
If he leaves or if he stays, bro?
Well, both.
Well,
what happened now?
If I am working for a company, if I'm costing a company money and I'm making decisions that is to the detriment of the company, and I'm bringing the company into disrepute, and I'm doing all kinds of things that makes the company look bad, would you keep me on as an employee?
No, I'm gonna get reason to get rid of you.
Well, there you go, bro. So far he's not handling this well, bro. But you know what? We might sit around. We might have our next joint radio session next week, Thursday. A lot can happen in a week, as we have seen. And by some miracle, he could come out and do something spectacular or miraculous, and pull something off, and then he's going to be the hero again. You know how it works with rugby, bro.
Yeah.
You know the guy that chip kick over the, that gives that chip kick or that up and under or whatever. Or the drop kick. Let me rather talk about the drop kick. When the drop kick lands, you're a hero, Prof. But when the drop kick misses, you're a villain. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's true. Because they need to blame somebody for the failure. So the villain, so somebody needs to take the blame on that. I just got a message in now. I just want to share it with the listeners quickly. Apparently, at the substation that feed this area from Eskom side, one of her main lines have burned off. And we're waiting for a team from Roslyn and Joburg to come and assist to get it repaired. So yeah, that is for sure. No power will be back on in this area tonight, maybe sometime tomorrow. So yeah, that is the reason why we had this little bit of technical hiccup, so that the listeners just also know what is going on. Yeah, if we can go around, I see it's nearly time for us to say goodbye. And Alvin, if I can start with you, just this, any last thoughts? You got 30 seconds.
Okay, the government's initiative to always form commissions, I've actually challenged that with the monitoring bill, where they're trying to exclude all public participation. So the public needs to be very wary of this. We're going more into a controlled dictatorship. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin. Good. Your last words.
Yeah, Prof. Yeah, we should keep on fighting, and as Neil would always say, is we need to keep on fighting in the light. That is what is currently happening, and I believe that God is also showing us and exposing all those that is fighting in the dark. But Prof, what the Bible teaches us, that when there's light there, immediately the dark disappears. So let us remain the light.
Absolutely. That's how it is written. Chris, from your side, and yeah, your Mumfi, please.
Prof, I'm very seldom left speechless, but I'm beginning to think of this whole government and all their mayors and all their ministers as being blunt instruments. They are blunt, they are obtuse. I think that there's a special place, like an Area 99 in PE, where corrupt people are bred. And I have no words. I have no munish for this week. I have God be with us and stand with us, because sometimes it's very difficult for those who still want to believe in this country.
Thank you, Chris. Jacques, your last goodbye words for this week.
Yeah, Prof, these reality shows, what is it called? Is it The Bachelor or The Bachelorette? I've seen endings, last episodes of the season, where the guy has an option of 3 women to choose from, and then he chooses one, and then she rejects him, and then he chooses another one, and then she becomes his second choice. Nobody wants to be second choice, Prof. There are people out there that are opting to vote for parties because the parties they wanted to vote for are disappointing them. So the pickings at the moment are slim, Prof, out there. Pickings are slim. So, and I mean, we are trying to fight very hard. We are honest, we are earnest, we are motivated. We are not fortunate enough to have the finances and the backing and whatever you want to call it that the bigger parties have. But what we lack in resources, we make up for in determination, enthusiasm, and fearlessness, Rob. And to all the people that are listening out there from the Mfuleni area and wherever, please do yourselves a favor and do us a favor. Reach out to us, support us, get involved, because the way things are going now, Prof, people are going to be left with very, very few choices at the end of the day when it comes to voting for political parties. So maybe it's time to give the new kid on the block a chance. We've been around for 4 years. We just need a break, Prof, and the people can make that happen for us. And it's time that the people of South Africa, the citizens of South Africa, that they get up and that they take the initiative. Take back the power. Stop leaving your fate in the hands of these people that you see on TV every day and read in the newspapers about every day. Stop putting your lives and your livelihoods and the futures of your children in the hands of these clowns that are running the circus. So it's time to make bold changes and bold choices. And, you know, Prof, what is that, the British SAS, what's their slogan? Who dares wins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have to.
That's my final thought.
Chances need to be, chances need to be taken. Listeners, yeah, you know, the power is in your hands. You can make a difference. You're the only ones who can make the difference for this country, because your vote count. Next week, same time, same place, when we will be back. And yeah, hopefully there will be no technical difficulties. But even with technical difficulties, we still make sure to do the straight talk with you from the UIM. Goodbye from myself and the panel.
Father, we thank you for your guidance with the discussions on the program this evening. Lord, be with each and everyone throughout the weekend and week until we gather again. Bless every listener in Jesus' name. Amen.